This video is sponsored by Surfshark VPN. Also, I'll be at MCM Comic Con in London on the 25th to the 27th of October. See you there. Or not. Hey you, my name is TomSka Ridgewell, and you're probably wondering why I'm in jail. It's for murder. A murder I didn't commit, to be clear. I was just in the wrong place, at the wrong time, and I was absolutely drenched in blood when the police arrived. Okay, it does sound pretty incriminating when I say it like that, especially while I'm holding this knife, but if you just give me a few minutes, I can explain everything. Comedy is dead. Sketch comedy, to be precise. Sketch comedy shows Okay, I don't want to make the title of this video any more misleading. A comedy sketch is, or was, a short funny scene roughly 2 to 5 minutes in length that typically explores some sort of humorous premise, such as, what if zombies were racist? What if a guy walked kind of funny? Or what if Mario had a gun? Longer than 10 minutes and you're looking at a short film. Shorter than a minute and you're looking at a skit. Astive movie? Full of skit. At least I think that's what the comment said. If you're watching this video, you've seen a comedy sketch. Unless this is somehow the first thing you've ever watched, in which case, that's weird. What are you, a newborn baby? Where are your parents? I'm English, so growing up I found myself watching Monty Python, Morecambe and Wise, Fry and Laurie, Harry Enfield and Chums, The Far Show, The Sketch Show, and everything that came after. And for the past 15 years, I have been mostly making sketch comedy. But over the past 2 decades, sketch comedy shows have gone from being staples of our television screens to all but non-existent, replaced almost entirely by independent content creators such as myself, which is why it pains me to say that sketch comedy, as I knew and loved it, has died. And I think I might have ruined my own career. Today, I'd like to take you down a rabbit hole of hee-hees and ha-has to tell you about the birth, the life, and the eventual murder of sketch shows and explain what I think that means for us and comedy as a whole. Maybe I'll explain this outfit as well. Are you ready for a video essay where I info dump about a niche special interest? Because that's what's coming, baby! Let's go! So, how did we get from cavemen making each other laugh by pretending their clubs were actually their dingalings to Ryan Gosling having a mental breakdown over a font?
It wasn't enough!
Well, as long as there has been a society to live in, there has been the Joker. It feels good to laugh, and it feels great to make people laugh. It's a win-win, but if there's one thing that feels even better than making people laugh, it's making people laugh whilst also getting paid loads of money! Enter the professional comedian. As far back as ancient Egypt and Rome, there's evidence of what we'd come to know as jesters, professional little freaks who would entertain royals and commoners alike through singing, dancing, telling jokes, doing impressions, and generally anything else that could get a laugh. And because they had what was called jester's privilege, they could pretty much say whatever they wanted without fear of getting beheaded. Kind of like how you can say the N-word on Twitter now, as long as you make sure to also compliment the Emperor's new truck.
No cap, she's literally dead.
But comedy arguably first hit the stage in ancient Greece, where playwrights would put on 3 tragedies back to back, followed by one funny satyr play to lift the mood back up. Real breakneck change of pace, like hitting a crowd with a knock-knock joke immediately after 9/11. These plays were typically poking fun at the gods, but unfortunately the gods were not aware of jester's privilege, so everyone involved would typically be struck and killed by lightning immediately afterwards. Woke nonsense, I believe Socrates once called it. It's also around this time that we saw the birth of the Dorian mimes, who are debatably the origin of what we would today call clowns. That's the Joker, baby! I'm making too many Joker references, and we are very early on into this video. Fake laughter, ha! Comedy didn't see a massive amount of innovation over the following 2,000 years. From my research, it was mostly just about farts and sex, so if you think about it, this would have brought the house down back in medieval times. Mainly because the house was made of mud and sticks, but I just feel like I'm unappreciated in my time, is all. And now, a word from our sponsor.
I really wanted to hack this user, but I didn't expect Surfshark VPN.
Nobody expects Surfshark VPN. Our chief weapon is protection from hackers.
And malware.
And malware. Hackers and malware. Our 2 weapons are protection from hackers and malware.
And camouflage mode.
Our 3 weapons are protection from hackers, protection from malware, and camouflage mode.
Oh, and you can access content that's not available in your country.
Our amongst our weapons are such elements as protection from malware and hackers, camouflage mode, the ability to... I'll just come in again.
I didn't expect Surfshark VPN.
Nobody expects Surfshark VPN. Amongst our weaponry are such diverse elements as protection from malware, protection from hackers, camouflage mode, and accessing content that's not available in your country. Also an ad blocker. Right, that's it!
And if you click the link in the description or scan the QR code on screen and use code TomSka, you get 4 months extra for free.
Thanks, Talking Shark Puppet. I will. And in honor of Monty Python, who rarely had a punchline...
Then, over in post-Renaissance Italy, the Commedia dell'arte sprung up. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, and I don't particularly care. Traveling groups of performers would don masks of immediately identifiable characters and perform semi-scripted, semi-improvised comedic routines. Immediately identifiable characters such as this fucking guy. And, that's Harlequin. That's where the Harlequin's from. Oh, fantastic. We've got enough to make a Suicide Squad now. Can the Joker fuck off from this video, please? But what does this have to do with sketch comedy? Well, Commedia dell'arte also introduced the concept of go-to stock routines that were consistent, reliable crowd pleasers, and they called these lazzi. For example, you could have the lasso of the fishing, where characters would be pretending to be fishing, and then they'd start pulling silly things out of the water, such as a boot, or something that's just way too big and improbable, and oh, it's just this gag that we did in Ed's World. I didn't know that joke was 400 years old, so thanks, Italy. I'm still not learning your language. Sorry. But it's not until the 1700s where the comedy sketch really starts to take shape. You see, theatre was long and boring and stuffy, and everyone was wearing a top hat. Everyone. So they started implementing intermissions, and then they started filling those intermissions with a little bonus act, perhaps some singing or some dancing, maybe a bear on a ball, or perhaps even a mini comedy play. Ooh. The year is 1789, and over in the States, a playwright called William Dunlap pens a mini comedy play titled Darby's Return, and he calls it a comic sketch. That's the name of the thing we're talking about. Oh, good job, Billy. You named it. I've read the play. Not that funny. Maybe you had to be there. But it's the name! We did it! Video over. Hey, you. So, as time goes on, audiences start really getting a taste for these intermission acts, and they start saying, hey, we don't really want to have to sit through a whole last play just for the fun bit. Can we just have the fun bit? But you can't exactly fill up a theatre just for 5 minutes of a bear on a ball or someone doing a little dance. And that's when someone had a very sexy idea. Enter the variety show, also known as music hall, also known as burlesque, also known as vaudeville, also known as the variety show. While each iteration refined the form a little bit more, the basic idea of the variety show remained the same. You had a show with a variety of performances, such as singing, dancing, novelty acts, and, you guessed it, bears on balls, comedy sketches. The video's about comedy sketches. I read my first book in 20 years while researching this video, The History of Sketch Comedy by Keegan-Michael Key and L. Key, and there's one fact in it that I couldn't personally verify, but I still really wanted to share anyway, which is that apparently in England, in music hall, you could get fined for performing a comedy sketch without the proper license, and given that I just had to pay to renew my TV license, it tracks. It really does. England. We did it. Now, one of the most concrete and historically verifiable places to feature the first kind of comedy sketches as we know them today was the touring minstrel show. Oh, you don't know what a minstrel show is? I've got to be the one to explain it to you? Yippee! The basic idea of a minstrel show is that a bunch of predominantly white people would paint themselves black and then perform comedic routines about how stupid and lazy they perceived black people to be. And you know, it was a different time. But at least we collectively outgrew this. Oh, what's that? The BBC aired the wildly popular black and white minstrel show on television from 1958 until 1978? Well, at least we outgrew... Oh, what's that? It also ran as an incredibly popular live show until 1989? Well, at least we outgrew... Oh, what's that? Oh, no. Oh, no. Well, at least we're not the Dutch. So, for about 100 years, sketch comedy exclusively existed within the context of the variety show, just now with extra racism. But then some sick fuck decided to harness electricity, and everything got weird. All of a sudden, we've got moving pictures on giant screens. Trains are coming at audiences left, right, and center.
Oh, no, wait!
And on top of that, voices are apparating out of thin air. Given that everything was covered in lead paint and Coca-Cola still had the cocaine in it, this must have been a pretty wildly disorienting period of history to live through. With the arrival of both radio and cinema into our lives, suddenly there were new and exciting ways to make people laugh, and the Vaudeville variety shows had all the tried and tested material these new mediums could need. More shticks than you could shake a stick at. At least until movies had dialogue, the more visual and slapstick comedy acts of vaudeville made their way to the silver screen in short subject comedies. Karl Marx. Nope. The Marx Brothers, Buster Keaton, Charlie Chaplin. Basically, if you were really good at falling over, you went into the pictures. However, the wordier and more cerebral acts went to radio, where their wordplay and quick wit translated best, finally bringing sketch comedy into people's living rooms. It was also this era of the radio where the sitcom was first born, kicking off with the Sam and Henry Show, which would later be reworked by its creators into the popular, long-running Amos and Andy Show, where they're on the radio. Why did they need to black up on the radio? So in the 1940s and 50s, when televisions finally started to flood into people's living rooms, it once again made sense to pull the familiar, family-friendly mass appeal of the variety show and plonk it straight onto television. And with the variety show, once again, came its comedy sketches.
That's the man's name.
That's whose name?
Yeah.
Well, go ahead and tell me.
Who is on first?
What are you asking me?
But while there were plenty of comedy shows full of sketches, none could seemingly break away from the apparent need to also feature singing and dancing. So it's hard to say what the first ever pure sketch comedy show was, when audiences finally went, hey, I don't want to have to sit through a whole ass variety show just for the comedy sketches. Can I just have the comedy sketches?
When are they gonna get to the comedy sketches?
Caesar's Hour still had singing. Benny Hill and the Dick Emery Show were full of sketches far too long to even count as sketches. And Beyond the Fringe wasn't so much a sketch comedy show as it was a single recorded performance.
I've got nothing against your lightning. The trouble is, neither of you.
However, I think it's easy to say that the year the sketch comedy show truly began was 1967. Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In, at last, the 1948 show
Luxury.
Do Not Adjust Your Set, the Carol Burnett Show. The year after that, Morecambe and Wise. The year after that, the Benny Hill Show, and of course, Monty Python's Flying Circus.
Thank you.
It's Monty Python, okay? Python, not Python. Python.
If you want me to go on arguing, you'll have to pay for another 5 minutes.
The comedy show was alive and thriving, and to top it off, they were finally targeting a younger, hipper demographic. These weren't your dad's sketch shows. They were your granddad's sketch shows, because they were fucking old, and that's how time works. They were my dad's sketch shows, but I'm probably older than you. Fuck. But if you thought the variety show was done, you'd be wrong, idiot. Because just a few years later, in the mid-70s, it would enter its final and arguably most powerful form yet, the sketch comedy variety show. That's right, I'm talking about... No, I mean, yes, technically, but I'm talking about...
Live from New York, it's Saturday night!
When I said you've seen a comedy sketch, I mean if you're on the internet in the 21st century, you've seen an SNL comedy sketch.
Cowbell. David Pumpkins.
Kylo Ren was shredded.
My pants were gone.
Papyrus.
The cultural impact of Saturday Night Live cannot be understated. Without it, we wouldn't have the phrase Debbie Downer, or make me a sandwich, or even... Yeah, Eddsworld got its name from Wayne's World, which was originally an SNL sketch.
Have you seen this boy?
And now you know that. Sorry. Anyway, for the decades that followed after those very first sketch comedy shows, you couldn't turn on your television without being blasted in the face with the latest in the lineage. Not the 9 o'clock news, French and Saunders, In Living Color, The Tracy Ullman Show, The Kids in the Hall, All That, Mad TV, Mr. Show, Goodness Gracious Me, Little Britain, The Amanda Show, Chappelle Show, The Catherine Tate Show. And then something changed. In 2005, YouTube came online, and with it the ability to upload and share video at a scale the internet had never before seen. And much like a century earlier when all of the comedy acts of Vaudeville flooded to the radio and silver screen, all of the best sketches history had to offer suddenly found themselves uploaded to the web, and the sketch show began to die. In 2011, I somehow found myself sharing a drink with John Lloyd, producer of Not the 9 O'Clock News, Blackadder, and QI.
When I caught Gerald in '68, he was completely wild. Wild? I was absolutely livid.
And while I was telling him that one day I hope to move to London and make my own sketch comedy show, he pointed out that out of every 30-minute episode of a sketch show, there are maybe only 2 good sketches, and out of a whole season, probably only 1 truly iconic, lasting sketch.
4 candles. Candles for forks.
And he was right. For every iconic Monty Python sketch,
This parrot is no more!
there are a dozen not iconic, entirely forgettable Monty Python sketches. And why would an audience sit through all of the duds?
I don't even like the good Monty Python sketches!
When the rare great few sketches will be uploaded to the internet the instant the airing was over.
Internet, eh?
The internet slowly began to choke the viability of the already increasingly expensive sketch show, and all of a sudden, appealing to a younger, more tech-savvy demographic became a thankless task, as they'd be the ones freebooting the latest offerings to the unruly and unregulated web.
I'm using the internet.
The rise of the internet also brought about the death of appointment viewing, where once you could rely on an audience with relatively few other entertainment options to tune in at the same time every single week, the convenience of streaming and catch-up TV, alongside the increasing amount of other options, delivered a killing blow to viewership figures. This created a death spiral, especially in the UK, as only the cheapest to produce or most sought-after shows could survive, and thus, the sketch show began to die off. Only those that incorporated the internet were able to survive. SNL brought on The Lonely Island and allowed them to upload their videos to YouTube, going viral and creating a positive feedback for the show. Comedy Central did the same with Key & Peele and Inside Amy Schumer, and more recently, Netflix with Tim Robinson's I Think You Should Leave.
We're all trying to find the guy who did this and give him a spanking.
So when the only place left to make sketch comedy is the internet, you get me. Both the millennial and Zoomer generations have found YouTube, Vine, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter to be the only places their comedy is welcome. But that, in and of itself, has changed the type of sketch comedy being made. In the earlier days of YouTube sketch comedy, it seemed like the goal was to try and strive to match the quality and stylings of that which had come before. When creators like Julian Smith and Freddie Wong were pushing the production value bar even higher, it very much seemed like we were on track to meet, if not surpass, the work of television. But then Vine entered the picture, followed by TikTok, and a new generation of audiences and content creators looked at the ever-increasing, inaccessibly high production value content and said, no, we're not going to do that. And very rapidly, a new zero-budget format and aesthetic became the new standard. But it wasn't just the look that changed, it was also the material itself. And look, yes, I know, this makes me sound bitter, and I don't dislike these kind of sketches, but I do miss the craft sometimes. Absurdity and the unexpected are funny, but on the internet, relatability is king, and familiarity is his queen. Gone are the days of wouldn't it be funny if sketches. Now is the era of isn't it relatable when videos. You know, why make a sketch about a guy trying to return a dead parrot to a pet shop? That's not relatable at all. Why don't we just make 1,000 sketches about how, like, when you work in retail, customers are dumb and annoying, and you gotta explain stuff to them, and there's no punchline, because there's also not really any jokes, right? Because we're just recounting a thing that kinda happens with some easy to dunk on straw man, and just fuck! I'm sorry, I shouldn't be taking this out on you. And by you, I mean my peers, the other people also making comedy sketches. I know that we're all just doing our best. The kind of stuff I make is not better than anything else, but I am a little bitter because I spent my whole life wishing and working towards entering an industry that no longer exists. And I feel a little betrayed and left behind. Oops, I got too sincere. Because it seems one of the only ways for a show to be seen as worth renewing now is for it to go immediately, explosively viral, the few sketch shows we have seen in recent years have either been extremely short-lived or swallowed into obscurity.
Idea to come!
Did you know they've been making a sketch show out of Brigham Young University since 2012? And it's good?
I will look after your son.
The Mormons have jokes! Jehovah's Witnesses! You gotta step up your game! Aside from Saturday Night Live, which, you know, technically a variety show, the only sketch show currently holding any measurable impact on the cultural zeitgeist is I Think You Should Leave.
You sure about that?
Yeah, Tim.
You sure about that?
Kinda am. And what any measurable impact on the cultural zeitgeist means, aside from a very nice score in Scrabble, is how far it's reached beyond its core original audience. Even if you've never sat down to watch I Think You Should Leave, you've probably seen the clips. You've seen the memes.
I didn't do fucking shit!
And the same is likely true of Key and Peele, but that ended 9 filthy years ago. Suspiciously just before we started to enter the worst possible timeline. Get out of here. I mean, the situation's just kind of grim. Hell, what was the last truly iconic sketch to come out of the UK? Was it...
Are we the baddies?
Because that was in 2006. Kitchen Gun?
Goodbye, Dirt!
Blackberry?
What's about it? Run out of juice.
The Monarch Song?
William, Henry, Stephen, Henry, Richard, John.
Oh, Steel versus Feathers?
Don't get it.
Was it me? Was it the whole? No, it wasn't. My ego's not that big. Wait, why are they here? And that is how I got here, representing the internet as the lone suspect in the murder of sketch comedy shows. And I can't deny that I haven't benefited from their demise, at least in some way. Maybe I never would have achieved the audience that I have had I been competing with a thriving industry. But then again, maybe I'm stuck here because there is no industry to break into anymore. Don't think I haven't tried multiple times. But why does any of this even matter? I said it myself, comedy sketches still exist. They're just mostly now in the hands of independent content creators such as myself, even if most of them are technically making skits, not sketches, but let's not get back into that. Chris and Jack, Adrian Bliss, Julie Nolke, Ryan George, Britannic, Foil Arms and Hog, Caleb City, Daniel Thrasher, Fairbairn Films, Cracker Milk, Whitney Avalon, Wizards with Guns, Viva La Dirt League, Alistair Beckett King, so many funny people making so much great stuff. And that's not even mentioning all of the fantastically funny people over on TikTok making vertical video sketches. TikTok, which you could easily argue is the modern day equivalent of the variety show. I mean, you've got singing, dancing, stand-up, interviews, discussion of current events, bears on balls, blackface, and even comedy sketches. Just thousands upon thousands of little acts, one after the other. So much variety, endlessly scrolling. So many videos, and you can really... I don't have TikTok on my phone, is the joke, because I find it predatorily addictive. It's a problem. Logically speaking, the internet is just the next step in a long line of cultural and technological advancements that have allowed us to get more jokes to more people. But if this is truly evolution, why does it still feel like a step backwards to me? In the history of sketch comedy, Jordan Peele argues that sketch shows are comparable to albums in that the works contained within operate as a collective, flowing into each other and offering a unique experience when consumed as a whole. And I think albums are a really apt comparison because the conveniences of the internet have done the same thing to them that it's also done to sketch shows. Why listen to a whole album when you can just immediately, conveniently access the best songs or sketches, denying yourself a large part of the intended experience? I mean, you wouldn't go to a stand-up show and then leave immediately after the best joke. No, you're there to surrender yourself to an entertainment experience. Won't somebody please think of the experience? But perhaps more importantly, sketch shows have been the big break for a lot of our biggest stars, or at least they used to be. Without In Living Color, we wouldn't have Jim Carrey. Without Mitchell and Webb, we wouldn't have Olivia Colman. And without The Muppet Show, we wouldn't have Kermit the Frog. Eddie Murphy, Amy Poehler, Bill Murray, Jamie Foxx, Adam Sandler, Kate McKinnon, Stephen Fry, Hugh Laurie, Mr. fucking Bean. And while I'm not saying that self-published sketches can't launch household names, Have they? You could maybe argue for Donald Glover. He was making YouTube sketches back in the noughties. Oh, and look, he was a Jehovah's Witness. We got one. But for the most part, it doesn't seem to help anyone make it big. At least not without first pivoting to a different medium, such as stand-up.
Donald Glover can play Spider-Man. He's nerdy.
I just can't help but wonder how many great talents from the past couple of generations we never got to meet. But what if I'm innocent? What if it wasn't the internet that killed the sketch comedy show? What if the sketch show was just one victim of a serial killer? And what if this video was actually supposed to be twice as long, but I ran out of time to finish it this month, forcing me to awkwardly cut it in half, leaving the whole me in jail murder mystery gimmick feeling underutilized and clunky? I hope you'll join me for part 2 of this video, where I'll be revealing the other victims of this serial killer and all of our possible suspects to, if nothing else, prove my innocence. And yeah, the gimmick still feels super clunky. I don't know how video essays do this, but I've made the costume. So, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you for part 2. TomSka out.
Hey you, thank you for the money. 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 Hey you, thank you for the money.
Thank you, patrons. We appreciate it. I hope we turned your money into something that you found at least kind of funny. Oh, it rhymed. That's fun. Okay, bye.